All right, well, getting started. Welcome everyone. Today we are going to make a spring veggie peanut noodle dish, essentially what I call a hack pad thai because it's gonna have that theme of that cuisine. And I make no claims that this is a 100% authentic pad thai. It's more inspired by. So getting started, let me tell you a little bit about what we are going to do today. I've got water heating. We're gonna boil some noodles. So we're getting that going. And let me walk you through the rest of the recipe. There's a lot of options with this. So one of the nice things is that you can really have a lot of versatility and do this a variety of ways, however you prefer. And so the base, our noodles, I'm using a rice noodle. So if you are needing to follow a gluten-free diet, you could use rice noodles and that would work. You could also use just spaghetti, linguine, essentially a long straight noodle. You pick the thickness to your preference. So that'll be our noodle base. As the water's getting boiling, prepping some other ingredients. One of the things that's a really nice flavor in this dish is ginger. If you've not seen ginger before, this is actually ginger root. So this is essentially basically the root of a ginger plant, and we are going to just use a little bit of it. It's super light. If you've never bought ginger before, it's the lightest thing. And so don't be intimidated by price. It's priced by pound, but it weighs practically nothing. So it's very cheap to buy fresh ginger and really adds a lot of taste power. You could use powdered ginger instead if you prefer. That is basically same ingredient, just in a dried powdered form. Other things in this dish, if you like a little heat, you can easily just add in some crushed red pepper flakes. This is basically one of those things that'll be to taste, so you'll do that at the end. Garlic is also another one of our flavors. You could use powdered garlic, dried garlic, or you can use fresh. If anybody is cooking along today, you may have any of those options. I'm using minced because frankly, it's super cheap and easy to do as a time saver. One of the key ingredients that makes this dish so tasty is coconut milk. So I've got a can of coconut milk here. And so we'll get into that in a little bit. The other thing that kind of is the pad thai element, the peanut taste, is just straight up classic peanut butter. So we'll get into that as well. And then another thing that you can do optionally is either fresh veggies. I've got some asparagus here today. Spring is the season for asparagus. That's a great one, works very well in this dish. Again, as a time saver, you can also just do frozen vegetables. So I've got also a bag of stir-fry vegetables. So this particular blend is broccoli, carrots, onions, sugar snaps, red peppers, water chestnuts, green beans, and celery. Frankly, any vegetable you like. So if you just want peas and carrots, you can do that. The beauty of frozen veggies is they are basically frozen at peak freshness. So they're already washed, they're already chopped, they're ready to go. And all you got to do is basically thaw them out or heat them up. So we've got options there if you want to do the fresh, or you can do the frozen. Another seasoning ingredient is soy sauce. So this particular ingredient, surprisingly, if you are not familiar, does contain gluten. So if anybody is needing to follow a gluten-free diet, you can use a gluten-free soy sauce instead. This happens to be the one I have in my kitchen. So that is just a classic ingredient that many people have. And then at the end, we have some seasonings we can add. This is fresh cilantro. So cilantro is flat. Let me hold it over actually here where you may be able to see it better. It's a flat leaf. It looks a lot like parsley, but a different taste profile. Cilantro is one that is commonly found in a lot of cuisines from Asia as well as Latin America. And so you may find that this crosses a lot of different taste profiles. So that's one that you can add on. You could also substitute mint. There are some people who have genetically a taste receptor that makes cilantro taste a bit like soap. So if you've ever had the reaction of like, I just don't like cilantro. Well, fair enough. If you were to eat soap, you would probably have the same reaction. So if cilantro is not your thing, fresh mint could substitute. Again, this is an optional topping, so really up to you. And then lastly, one of our proteins, we've got a few options there as well. Edamame, so this is just a shelled frozen edamame. And basically, again, it has the advantage of frozen veggies ready to go, washed. All you got to do is heat it up. You could also do eggs. So if you're following a plant-based diet and include eggs, great. Or if you're doing more of a vegan diet and wanted to have a protein source that's not animal-based, then edamame, or frankly, a combination of the two, whatever you prefer. So that's just a quick walkthrough of some of our ingredients. What we're gonna do for our process is simply boil the noodles, get the veggies heated or cooked, and then essentially make a sauce from our different seasonings and different sauce ingredients. So let's get started. I see a little bit of steam is starting to come up out of the pot, so I'm gonna check that. And I've got some teeny tiny bubbles. It's not quite really rolling to a boil yet, so I'm gonna give that a little bit more time to get it good and hot. And while that's going, let me walk you through how to prep some ginger. So either one of these, we've got this little nub, this is a bigger one. This recipe calls for 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh ginger grated. And so really that's up to you. How gingery do you like your dish? I like mine very gingery. And so I'm gonna cut off this end. And then there's this fine little kind of papery outer edge. And so I'm going to basically just take my knife and slice that off. That part's not so tasty. And so I'm just gonna do a real close cut. Let me see if you can see me in this. That's a little better. So I'm basically just gonna trim away all of that papery outer edge. Don't need it. Like I said, ginger's very cheap. You may find a lot of different ways to do this. You can scrape it with a spoon. Frankly, losing a little bit and keeping the process quick and easy works well for me, so that's what I do. Now I'm going to use a grater. You might use a zester, would be another option. Let's see if I can get this in a better view. And so these little small holes will work. So I'm basically just running that down the grater, and it's giving me a nice, fine little cut.
Melanie, what if you don't have a zester or a grater?
Then powdered ginger is your easiest. Or you can mince it up. So you don't have to have it this fine. Frankly, a lot of times I do that because I've already got my knife out and I don't want to wash any more dishes than I have to. So I might just take, so let's do another piece. I'll just take a chunk of this other one. That end is a little rough. I'm going to chop that off, give this a peel. So mincing basically means a really fine, small cut. So I'm getting the edge of that ginger out of there. And so basically what you can do is just slice it up. Once you're getting down to this little nub, and one thing I'll tell you, if you can, hold your fingers that are holding your food like a claw, tuck your fingertips back, and then you won't chop them. And then frankly, the easiest thing to do is just go back and forth over it a number of times until you've got small enough pieces to be to your liking. And so I'm not going to try and hold these teeny tiny pieces again. I'm just going to run across like that. So now I've got, I would say, between the two, a couple of tablespoons of ginger. In fact, again, saving yourself some dishes, your thumb is about the size of a tablespoon. Here's a tablespoon. So if I do about the size of my thumb, I've got a tablespoon. I don't necessarily need to measure this ginger. That gives me the idea of how much I need. So we'll put our ginger in a bit. We'll set that over to the side. And again, if you just don't even want to get the knife out and just use powdered ginger, you could do that. Dry is going to be a bit more potent than fresh because it's essentially concentrated. So you might do a teaspoon or 2 teaspoons to compare to 1 to 2 tablespoons of fresh. All right, I see the steam is coming up nicely. Our water is off to a good boil. So I'm gonna take this lid off. This is, I already used some of this, so I've got about 8 ounces of noodles in this dish. I'm just gonna pop that in there. Give it a stir to keep them from sticking together. And these will cook in like 4 or 5 minutes, so that is speedy, speedy. Now, frankly, with rice noodles, if you wanted to do this entire recipe without turning on the stove, you could. You could actually get some water good and hot and then just soak them. So if I got a big bowl of piping hot water, they would soak for longer than they will boil on the stove. They would soak for about 20 to 25 minutes. Just follow the package directions. But basically what you're doing is essentially getting them soft and heated up. So that'll do the trick. So you don't necessarily have to turn the stove on at all in this recipe. So we'll let those cook for a bit. I know that pan will want to boil over if I seal it up. So I'm going to leave the lid just a little bit to the edge and turn the heat down to a medium. So while the noodles are cooking, we're going to take a quick review of asparagus. So asparagus, like I said, February, March is prime asparagus time. So one of the things you may have heard is to prep asparagus. Let me find a good one. Let's see. You'll notice that this end is kind of white. It's tough. It's going to be real fibrous. That part's not very pleasant to eat. So what you can do is frankly just snap it. And then when you've got a nice green inside, that's going to be the spot that's going to be tender and nice. Now, frankly, you can do that. Again, skip the knife altogether. Or frankly, if you have a bunch of asparagus and you're like, all right, that's about the length I want, I can take the rest and in one move, just chop the ends to match. That's frankly probably faster than me snapping individual pieces. But so there's our asparagus. So you can take and just break this up into pieces. Or like I said, what I'm doing is I'm just going to chop it. So in our dish, in the final, I want these in about bite-sized pieces. So I'm just going to chop them about inch and a half. And then we've got asparagus ready to go. On the other hand, if I'm just doing frozen veggies, I can pop those in the microwave and heat them. Or if I do have my stove turned on, I can actually just dump them into my water that is boiling my noodles. In fact, since these are frozen, I'm going to turn this back up. So now I'm just going to pour these in here. And as that boils, basically your frozen veggies are heated or cooked and ready to go. So we'll let that keep on going. So really our next ingredient that we're looking at is our sauce. And so the ingredients for that are basically the peanut butter, the coconut milk, and then our spices or seasonings, our ginger, hot pepper if you want to include that, and our garlic. So we'll let that keep on going and basically get our sauce ready to roll. So I am going to put in half a cup of peanut butter, and then I'm going to show you a good trick. So for our purposes, I'm scooping this peanut butter into a standard measuring cup. The glass one we might call a liquid cup. You wouldn't be able to do like flour in that because you couldn't level off the top. Basically, once I've got my half cup peanut butter, so that's about good. I'm now actually going to put that into my glass cup, because what I'm going to do next is use a little of the hot water from my noodles that are boiling to get the peanut butter to melt a bit. It makes it a lot easier to stir. We're going to do that. Peanut butter. And actually my frozen veggies chilled my noodles a little bit, so I'm going to let that keep heating up. while that's getting back to a boil.
Sorry, can you say again how much peanut butter?
Yes, a half a cup.
Thank you.
Yep, you're welcome. So while that's going, I want to show you the shelled edamame option. Now, frankly, this has been in my freezer, so I've got a block of edamame here. Now, that's going to melt down a little bit. That'll look better in a little bit. Let's just pop that into the microwave. Give that a good minute, 2 minutes. So while the edamame is thawing and heating up, our noodles are getting hot. We're getting ready for our sauce to get going. Our ginger is ready, and garlic and soy sauce and coconut milk will be our last bits. So I'm going to say that sauce is starting to get hot enough to be effective for what I need. So I'm just taking that measuring cup that I used, and I'm pulling in about a half a cup of water, pouring it in with my peanut butter. Doesn't matter, there's a few veggies in there. It's all going to go in the same place in the long run. And I'm just going to give that a bit of a stir and let that hot water start softening up the peanut butter, and that's going to make it much easier to work as a sauce. So again, if you wanted to do this without the stovetop at all, you could be just heating up the noodles, get some hot water, do the same thing with the peanut butter that I'm doing here. That's all we need.
How much hot water did you add to the peanut butter, Melanie?
Half a cup of the hot water.
Okay.
And honestly, that you could do more or less based on how thick or thin you want your sauce to be in the long run.
Okay.
I find that gives me kind of what's the good consistency to compare this to? It's a little thicker than paint.
And Melanie, how much peanut butter with that half cup of water?
So same, half cup of peanut butter, half cup of water.
Perfect, thank you.
To make this easy to remember, the next thing we're gonna add is a half cup of coconut milk. So same, half cup, half cup, half cup. You remember a half cup? You got them all. So I've got this whole can here. I'm just using part of it. What to do with the rest of the coconut milk? Well, coconut milk's delicious, so you have plenty of options. You could put a little in oatmeal, you could put some in your coffee, you could make this dish twice. So plenty of options for a partial can of coconut milk.
We make coconut rice at our house, and it's so good and so easy. I'm gonna put the recipe in the chat because it's a really good way to, because I'm using half a can that we use the other half for coconut rice.
Excellent. So if you haven't seen edamame or haven't had it somewhere in a restaurant, it's these little beans. They look kind of like plump lima beans. So this is a complete protein, meaning it has all the different amino acids that we use. So if you are looking for a good protein source that's quick and easy, I highly recommend shelled edamame. It can be added to so many different things very easily. And all you got to do is just basically pour it in. So I've got a little water in this. I'm going to just drain that.
Melanie, do you know whether coconut rice freezes?
Oh, that's a great question. You know, I'm not sure about that. I have my doubts because when you get coconut milk in a can, you really want to shake it up well. It tends to solidify. I did that beforehand and opened the can, so I didn't shake it on camera or I would have had coconut milk on my ceiling. So basically, because of that splitting layering, I would anticipate that it's going to freeze not evenly. Please jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. If you've tried it, I've not tried it. That's my estimate based on just kind of the properties of it. Okay, our veggies.
Melanie, I have a quick question about the if we used fresh vegetables, should we have grown those in the pot as well, or do we cook those a different way?
That was breaking up a little bit. Can you say it again?
Yeah, I'm sorry. If we have fresh vegetables, do we throw those in the pot as well, or do we cook them a different way?
Yeah, you totally could. I would say that you know, 2 or 3 minutes basically is all it takes for getting something like kind of nice, crisp, tender. I'm going to call these done and I'm going to turn them off the heat. Now, if you didn't throw them in the same pot and you were doing that, since I threw these in and I've got my asparagus chopped up over here, you can also microwave vegetables. So in fact, that's what I'm going to do next. Let me dump this into the colander. And we're going to use the same pot to stir it all up in later because, as I've mentioned, I don't love doing dishes. So meanwhile, here's just a bowl, and I'm going to put the asparagus in that. So you're getting kind of a double of some things in this recipe simply because I wanted to show you both options. And so this is the super veggified pad thai. Or I suppose I could just have it as a side dish or all kinds of things. Lost some pieces. There we go. So a little, maybe tablespoon or so of water is helpful, just so you essentially create some steam. So I just set those in a bowl. I love this thing. If you haven't found one, you know, go to a Walmart or Target or whatever, but this is just a basically reusable microwave cover. So that's going to help essentially keep the steam in. So one advantage of microwaving the veggies, I'm doing about 4 minutes, is cooking with less water helps you actually retain more nutrients of the vegetables. So a lot of the nutrients in vegetables are what are called water soluble. That means when they're heated, they leach out into the water. And so you lose some of that nutrition. If you do the minimum amount of water, like just a tablespoon that I added there for microwaving, you're really not going to lose any of that. If you were doing a soup, you're eating the broth. In this case, because we drained the noodles and the veggies, I would be losing some of that. And I don't want to lose any of that nutrition. So doing a minimum amount of water helps. So pros and cons. And so I think it's that balance of what works with both your taste preferences, your convenience, your schedule, your cooking style. Like I said, a lot of versatility. You can do this a lot of different ways. Okay, so our noodles, our veggies are well underway. We've got our sauce, the peanut butter, and the coconut milk. And we've got a few other ingredients that are going into our sauce. So we need to add some garlic, some ginger, and some soy sauce. I'm just stirring our liquid things together here a little bit. And we've got our ginger, which can just go right into that. You could do the same if you were doing powdered. Our garlic says 1 to 3 cloves. So again, depends on your taste preference. For this minced stuff, about a half a teaspoon is about a clove. I am going to do, I like some garlic. I don't love tons. So I'm going to do about a teaspoon and a half.
What's your trick for getting the skin off of garlic, Melanie?
You know, I wish I had a fresh clove and I would show you, but I will demonstrate and you use your imagination. If you have fresh garlic and you pop it onto your cutting board, let's say it's just right here, take your knife, take a chef's knife, something with a nice wide blade like this. You would lay it, so I'm going to set my finger here for a second just to imagine. You would lay your blade over top of the garlic and then you just smash it. You just take your fist and smash right where the garlic was, and that will actually make the clove pop right out of the skin, and then you can take the skin away. It also basically gets you halfway minced, and then you can take that fresh garlic and just slice it up, mince it like I was doing with the ginger earlier. If you like a really kind of very smooth, not lots of pieces, a small sprinkle of salt, and then take your knife and do almost like a spatula, like you're spreading it, and that will actually give you like a garlic paste of sorts. So any of the above would work quite well. All right, so we've got our garlic, our ginger, our coconut, our peanut butter, our last thing is soy sauce. And so for the soy sauce, it's going to be 2 tablespoons. Now, for those of you who may have noticed, when I did the garlic, I used my tablespoon when I scooped it out, and I did half of a spoonful. 1 tablespoon is the same as 3 teaspoons. So by that, I got the amount I wanted, and I didn't have to wash teaspoons. So now I'm going to do 2 tablespoons soy sauce. Pour that in. That basically is it for our sauce. It's ready to go. Just stirring the ingredients together to get them well blended. You just heard the microwave finish. That's our asparagus. We've got our edamame. I want to show you one more. One more fun trick. If you want to do eggs for this recipe, again, you don't have to use the stove. You can do this in the microwave. So I'm going to get my cup here and repurpose that. Microwave eggs. So here's a little cooking spray just to keep them from sticking. Give that a quick spray. And I'm just going to scramble up some eggs and stick them in the microwave. For those of you who may have seen our last version, I believe we did the omelet in a mug. So same concept. Grab a. And so now I'm just going to scramble these a smidge. The trick to microwaving eggs is that you want to do just a minute at a time, because microwaves don't tend to cook evenly. So you're going to get them partially cooked, give them a stir, cook them a little bit more until they're set. And then essentially we've got scrambled eggs that we can just stir up into our dish. So as that's finishing, let's start to assemble some things. We've got our noodles and veggies. Back to the pot. You hear a little sizzle just because my stove still is retaining some heat. I'm going to go ahead and throw in all these veggies. So I'm putting in
Okay, so we're putting everything back in our original pot.
Yep.
Okay.
And then you can just stir it up in there. And my bowl got hot. And now we've got our sauce. I'm just going to pour that over top. See how our eggs are coming along. Now, I like crunchy peanut butter in this mix. You could do smooth or crunchy. I like the texture of a little crunch with the peanuts. Here's our egg. So if you can see, it started to pull away. It's actually cooking pretty well, but you may be able to tell there's a little liquid in the bottom. Let me show you on this one so you can kind of see a little liquid in there. So I'm going to basically break those up, stir them up a little bit. And honestly, I think based on the way this looks, I'm now going to go to a 30-second interval. I'm not going to do another whole minute. I think that's going to actually do the trick. Basically, eggs are done when they're set. They're just kind of a visual for that. Okay, so those are finishing off. And now I'm basically just stirring this together. I'll tell you what. see this a little bit. So I've got both asparagus and the mixed noodles in there, or the mixed veggies, sauce, and then I've just got one of those pasta things. It's kind of good for grabbing and turning and just getting this all mixed up. So we've got 90% done. All right, now here comes some scrambled eggs. Just give them another little, breaking them up a bit. You could do the same concept of fried rice. That'll be another day. We'll cook some fried rice. You can do it all in the microwave. So now we've got double protein and double veggie mix here. And I'm really just stirring to get the noodles to blend with the other ingredients and get everything nice and coated so it's good and saucy and peanutty. So that's essentially our recipe. Now the last little bits that I want to walk you through are just some fun toppings that add some flavor. So one is limes. So a nice little trick with limes, if you don't already know this, the way to get a lime to be kind of maximum juicy is just to take it on the counter and roll it. That just helps to kind of break up the peel from the inside. And now I'm just going to chop that and squeeze it in there. You could absolutely just have bottled lime juice in this dish. So that would make it a more pantry staple, ready to go. So, you know, if you have frozen veggies, frozen shelled edamame, some noodles, peanut butter, a can of coconut milk, powdered ginger, powdered garlic, those are all things you could have on hand at any time and minimize grocery trips, or just, you know, have oh, what am I going to make for dinner? How about that peanut noodle dish? Or like I said, you can go the fresh route. So so I'm putting in the equivalent of 1 lime here, which would work out to be a couple tablespoons. And then our other topping, as I mentioned earlier, is going to be cilantro. And those really just are so power packed. The lime, the cilantro, coconut, just so much fresh and flavorful stuff. So the trick for cilantro, you can eat the stems, the leaves, it's all good. So frankly, you don't need to waste your time getting the leaves separated from the stems here. In fact, let's do the swap. Best thing to do with cilantro is kind of get it into a little ball. Kind of holds it together that way. And then you can just chop across. Give it a turn, chop it the other way. Basically just get it chopped to the size and shape and consistency that you want. We've got all of our ingredients together. 1 hot meal, maybe a few dishes for the microwave, stove or not, optional. If you were to snap your asparagus and use scissors or just tear your cilantro, you don't even have to have a knife if you don't want to. And that is a quick and easy pad thai. Plate that up, give you a look at it. We've got protein, we've got veggies, we've got our starch. So we've got 3 food group categories and nice representation. And voila. So I hope that you very much enjoy this recipe, find it easy to do, easy to keep on hand, great way to get a fresh, delicious meal, very economical as well as quick to put together.